What began as a routine radio call echoing through police channels in the quiet rural town of Libode quickly escalated into a fatal encounter that once again laid bare the intense strain between law enforcement and violent crime in South Africa. In moments like these, seconds determine who survives and who does not, leaving communities rattled long after the sound of gunfire disappears. Police say officers were acting on intelligence about a high-risk suspect believed to be involved in serious criminal activities in the area. This was neither a routine check nor a casual patrol, but a deliberate operation based on information indicating the suspect was armed, unstable, and likely to resist arrest violently. In places like Libode, where policing resources are limited and criminal networks blend seamlessly into familiar neighborhoods, such intelligence is treated with utmost seriousness. When officers eventually confronted the suspect, the situation deteriorated swiftly. An intended arrest turned into a violent clash. According to police, the suspect fired first, leaving officers with no choice but to protect themselves. Gunshots rang through the area, residents took cover, and fear rippled through nearby homes as people realized this was a real and dangerous shootout unfolding in their midst. Once the gunfire ended, the suspect was found dead at the scene. Although no officers were killed, the emotional toll of the incident weighed heavily on Libode. Another life was lost, another violent episode added to the town's history, and another stark reminder surfaced of how closely danger shadows ordinary people trying to get by each day. Authorities later confirmed the suspect was armed during the confrontation, and as required by law, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate was informed to examine the circumstances surrounding the fatal shooting. For investigators, the focus is on procedure, but for residents, the questions cut much deeper. Could this have been avoided? How did it come to this? And how many times must such stories repeat before meaningful change occurs? Across South Africa, deadly encounters between police and suspects have become disturbingly common. From cities to rural communities, officers are increasingly facing criminals who are well armed, organized, and willing to die rather than submit to arrest. These incidents are not impulsive, they stem from long-standing systemic failures where illegal guns circulate freely, poverty and desperation drive crime, and public trust erodes with every unresolved case. In Libode, locals describe a town trapped between fear and anger, fear of criminals operating openly and frustration with a justice system they believe responds only after lives are lost. For many residents, the shootout was not surprising but inevitable, the result of mounting tension between authority and violence. Police maintain that their members acted within protocol, stating that lethal force was used only after officers' lives were placed in immediate danger. In a country where police are frequently targeted, ambushed, and killed, the boundary between enforcing the law and staying alive is perilously thin. Officers do not arrive expecting to fire their weapons, but they do arrive prepared for that possibility. Still, every fatal incident reopens unresolved wounds. Communities question whether enough is being done to stop suspects before situations reach such deadly conclusions, while families of the deceased, regardless of alleged crimes, are left dealing with grief, rage, and unanswered questions. And so the cycle persists. What unfolded in Libode is not unique but part of a broader national pattern where police actions increasingly resemble combat operations, driven by intelligence, tactical maneuvers, armed suspects, and fatal results. Each event feeds into an ongoing debate about policing, accountability, and the true price society pays for unchecked crime. For officers on the front lines, the reality is harsh. They operate in environments where suspects often feel they have nothing to lose, where illegal firearms are widespread and affordable, and where criminal groups recruit young men who view violence as their only means of survival. When police intervene, surrender is not always considered. For residents, fear comes from both sides, fear of criminals who terrorize neighborhoods and fear of being caught in the crossfire when violence erupts. In Libode, people described hearing gunshots and rushing to keep children indoors as everyday life abruptly froze. Authorities have called for calm, assuring the public that investigations are ongoing and the law will take its course, emphasizing that IPID's involvement is meant to guarantee transparency and accountability. Yet trust remains fragile, and words alone rarely reassure communities that justice will truly prevail. Beneath every statistic about police shootouts lies a deeper narrative of a nation struggling to control crime while safeguarding human life, where police are both defenders and targets, suspects are both offenders and products of broken systems, and ordinary communities are caught in between trying to live normal lives amid extraordinary violence. The Libode incident also forces difficult questions about prevention. Intelligence led police to the suspect, but what failures occurred before intelligence turned into gunfire? Education, employment, rehabilitation, border security, and firearm control all remain unresolved pieces of the puzzle. Each unanswered issue weakens the foundation further. South African police have repeatedly warned that criminals are growing more aggressive, and deadly encounters are no longer rare but increasingly routine. While every officer has the right to return home alive, every life lost intensifies public anxiety about the direction the country is heading.